In this video, I want to talk about spiritual awakenings a little bit and what it is. And for many people that have gone through it, they have a good idea and understanding. Yes, they hear information, but when you actually go through it is when you can say, I understand it. Because it is not a vague process. It is very deep and it is very transforming. And that generally starts when things really start changing in your life. So the people around you no longer serve you. Your job no longer serves you. Hobbies, foods, things you desire no longer serve you. And so you start going through this major transformation. And it's not that you lose people or things or anything around you. You actually start finding yourself. And when you start finding yourself, you enter in what we call the dark night of the soul. And as you go through the dark night of the soul, that's when those things start changing in your life and you start finding out who you really are. You start understanding what your purpose is. You start really learning what is best for you. And so lots of things transform and change in your life. And as you go through the dark night of the soul, it's not a pretty process. You start recognizing the things that control your life. You start recognizing behaviors and behaviors of others. And you start becoming more aware of the things that are around you. And as you go through that process, you meet your demons, your dark side, you meet the things, your bad habits, like I said, a little bit of everything. And that's what starts transforming. And the more you find yourself, the more you learn yourself, that's self-mastery, the less that becomes tolerant to the things around you that don't serve you no more. And so as you go through that, you become aware, and that's what we call an awakening. And we also call it an ego death. And so that ego, or those things that drove you to make those bad habits, those poor choices, allow those certain people or behaviors to be in part of your life, you allowed them to happen. That's when that all goes away. And so you really start breaking down the ego and the things that control you, and you start finding and building yourself back up. And when that happens, it's like I said, a big transformation. And so you're going to have a lot of different stages of the awakening. And so the awakening starts with the dark night of the soul. It's when you start your purging process, purging people, purging jobs, purging everything. Your diet changes, everything about you. And then that's where you transition into a very blissful stage. And that's where you feel like you're in heaven, you're high on life, everything is absolutely beautiful and amazing. And then you come back down from your blissful state, and sometimes you can enter a dark night of the soul again, not always. I've had many. Sometimes I've only had the dark night of the soul once, and then I've had others where I went through the dark night of the soul twice. And that is because depending on what you're purging, sometimes it requires that secondary purging. And so if you think of a lotus flower, like a 1,000-petal lotus flower, slowly opening, one petal at a time, and I can't show you, but I try. Think about that happening. So as that opens and you start finding yourself and you start learning the things that are best for you and what you will no longer tolerate, you will go through a couple dark nights of the soul. So it's transformation and transmutation. And so you purge a little bit, you grow a little bit. You purge a little bit, you grow a little bit. So it's kind of an ongoing situation for a while. And then you get to a point where you kind of stabilize and you're just consciously aware. And that's where some people choose to go back to their own comfort zone, their own normal life that they had before. So they start hanging around the same people, they start doing the same things, and so all of that purging and blissfulness and awakening and awareness takes place, but then it doesn't last, and that's because they have self-will to go back to their old patterns, their own old comfort zone, and continue those habits and continue those ways of living. And then some choose to stay aware and they choose to continue to grow and learn themselves and keep. Now, I just want to say that doesn't mean you can't see the people you're around, but sometimes you literally outgrow them. And what that means is you still love them. That part will never change, but you transform so much that you're not who you used to be. And so the relationships you had with these people are not the same. And so you can still be in their life, you can still love them, but a lot of times things change and you don't stay in their life. And it's just because, like I said, you've kind of outgrown them. And it's because you yourself has transformed, and what they know is the old you, and that's the relationship you had with them. As you start to transform and you start to transition into, it's the new old you. So it's the new you, but it's remembering who you've always been, not the relationships and what society has made you, which is what those familiar relationships are. You learn who you've always been, so it's the new old you. And once you do that, sometimes people don't want a relationship with you no more because you're not who you used to be. You are now somebody they don't really know, and that's because you've grown so much and you've transformed so much that you're like a totally different person. And so lots of things change, and I will have to continue this because I'm almost out of time, but if you go through a spiritual awakening, you will know, because your whole life will go upside down and turn around, and you will transform into somebody completely different.